Oh, it's snowing a lot.
Good day for snow.
Yeah, we wanted to go up to see the view, but I think we're not seeing the view. I can tell about this beautiful T-shirt that we made it for Sundance, so in the beginning of 2023 when we well premiered, and it became so popular. People were like, "Oh, we really love this T-shirt," and you know, like it was so good. Even in parties, you know, when you're like it's late and you're already tired and loud music, and somebody asks like, "Hey, what film did you do?" Then it's like this film. So it's like very practical too, and it's very practical when you travel so much. Then you just know, okay, no thinking. It can be 3 a.m. like. Okay, the T-shirts. So it's like a costume. You recognize the Sauna Sisterhood people, and you cannot buy this T-shirt. You can only get it as a gift. So actually, when I was teenager, then already I was really dreaming of becoming a filmmaker. But I was really broken. I was like very fucked up. I was in my room, and I had deep social anxiety, and I was just watching films. And then I remember watching all the film history, and these films really touched me, and then I was like, I wish one day I can also, you know, start making films, but I was so broken. So it took me years. I started the journey of healing, and then I did, I have a degree in photography. I was in contemporary art for 5-6 years, also doing music. I studied literature and folklore. I traveled, and then when I was 28, I had already a daughter, and I remember this one spring day, and I was like, hey, Anna, but you had this dream of becoming a filmmaker. So do you like respect your dream? And I was like, yeah, I need to respect my dream. And then I went to film school. And Sauna Sisterhood is my first long film. And I did it 7 years. I hope next film is not 7 years. Please. Actually, when I think about where the impulse to the film comes from, it comes from the time when I was 11, and I think the film has grown inside me since I was 11. And it was a time when my grandfather had just died, and his body was in the house, in the countryside, in the house, and we went to smoke sauna. It was my granny, my aunt, my niece. And their granny revealed that grandfather had actually cheated on her, not just once, but several times, lived with another woman. Should I stop? So I've thought about this, that the impulse to the film actually comes from the time when I was 11, and my grandfather had just died. And let's see.
I'm not sure to cut.
It's a very, of course, like I'm talking about death, and then it's like coming in. Oh. It's like filmmaking, you know. Always. Somebody's. Well, I can still continue. So yeah, so I was 11. First of all, I was born into smoke sauna culture. So and in my case, it was my granny who introduced me to all the heritage and the rituals. And when I think about the impulse to the film, then it comes from the time when I was 11, and my grandfather had died, and his body was in the farmhouse, and we went to smoke sauna before funeral. And it was my granny, my aunt, my niece. And I remember how Granny confessed that grandfather had actually cheated on her, not just once, but several times, lived with another woman, and she really said how difficult it was. It was Soviet time and for kids, and you know, and she released all the emotions connected with that. I remember there was a lot of shame, anger, and pain, and she really let it all out. And we were there witnessing that. I was this 11-year-old. And once we went out from smoke sauna, put the clothes on, I felt that Granny had made peace with grandfather, so that next day we could bury him in peace. And that was the time when like a next layer of smoke sauna opened to me. I realized that on this earth there is a safe space where absolutely all your emotions, all your experiences can be shared, can be heard. And when we give voice to our story and when we give space for other people's stories, then there's huge healing power. And also I now think about it was like the time when I was initiated to sisterhood, to these kind of sharings. And I think this is the root to the film. I wanted to share this kind of space with the humanity, you can say. And then the journey started. But very concretely, the idea for the film came when I was in a monastery with my mother. It was a Buddhist monastery. And I was doing a silence retreat. It was like 26 days of not speaking, not writing, not reading. And in that silence, I started to contemplate on voices. Because you're silent, but still inside the head there are voices, you know. And like, okay, all these voices, but where is my voice? Or who does these voices belong to? And then also I noticed many voices that had been silenced already, like generations ago. You know, like traumas that are not passed, that are just passed on as traumas, but never talked about. And then came this vision for the film. And to give voice for women in the sacred, safe space of smoke sauna. And I really wanted to write it down because it felt so strong, and I was really scared that, okay, I'm going to be silent here like another 15 days. Maybe I lose this idea. So I went to the lady monk, and the lady monk was like, you know, you could go to her when there was something very important. I was like, I really need to write it down. And she was like, no, because you know another rules, you cannot write. But she taught me an important lesson that when it is strong voice, it will stay with you. And so it stayed with me. And now I'm actually doing it as a method, testing my ideas. Like when an idea comes, I don't write it immediately down. I'm testing how strong that drive is or that vision. Does it stay with me? And it's a good way actually to test. Because you need that voice to go through the challenges, like, for example, 7 years of filmmaking. It's all happening in front of camera. And it was like I actually kept this space that told everyone that we are not talking what we're going to talk about in smoke sauna. So it was always entering into unknown. And one smoke sauna session lasted around 4 hours. Once it was 8 hours. So you really need to take time, and imagine it's like real hot smoke sauna, like around 80 degrees average, sometimes 90 Celsius. And so the camera had to be ready. We had to be ready when the miracles happened, when you know, because it's like this, with the heat and time, your physical dirt starts to come from the deeper layers to the surface, but then also the emotional dirt starts to come up to the surface. And when they come, you have to catch it because you cannot repeat it. It's not the same energy. And sometimes it was that camera needed to take a break and then we couldn't capture it. But that's also fine because I have 200 hours of material still, you know. Not all from stories, there is also nature. So no, all these stories are happening. These are what came out from smoke sauna. I didn't know what exactly will come out. What I knew, what I had in my vision was this kind of circular structure, and then what I called water layer, like in the beginning of the film, not in the very beginning, but still in the beginning there is like frozen water, and the end there is flowing water. So that was like what I envisioned. And you know, like in all nature shots there is different forms of water, and that actually carries this kind of philosophy that my granny used to pass on to me, that when we have like traumas, then they are like frozen water. But we should never forget that frozen water has the power to flow again. We just need warmth and safety to melt our traumas. And so these kind of things I had in mind, but no, the story is not. But it was very interesting, all the work with how the women, how that trust was possible. It didn't come just like this. I think, first of all, it was possible because I am like a voice from within the community. So there was already like a lot of trust. And also, when I met with the women first, I had a rule for myself that I will not convince anyone. Like I was just very transparent on what level of intimacy I'm looking after, and only those who were like, yes, we want to be there in the film, we continued. And when somebody was like, I don't know, then for me it was no. I knew that I can only make this film with the voices where they really want to be there, and not like convincing them. And then the second thing is that usually when somebody says yes, then production gives legal papers and they sign before filming. And it felt so wrong to me. Like how could, I always think like, would I want my daughter to be in a film like this? You know, asking them to be naked, body and soul, and then signing some papers before. So we took huge risk with producer, but it was very worthy. Marianne Neustrat really understood that vision and shared that vision. So we had agreement that only in the post-production, when I have already something to show, I show to the women and they have the right to say yes or no. So they had their voice till the very end. So that's why there is the trust. That's why they were also free to go to the smoke sauna and free to share, because they trusted us and they trusted that if there is something they don't want to put out, in the end they can take it out. And also because another thing is there are naked female bodies, and even though in smoke sauna where you go there, there's nothing sexual in the nakedness, but at the same time in society naked female bodies are so over-sexualized. So for me that was like a challenge, how to make sure that that non-sexual glance comes to the film. So for that we did tests on my own body with a cinematographer, finding the language, finding where I felt safe, and then I showed it to the women so they saw what visual language there will be. And also I was following who wanted to show their face and who didn't want to show their face. So that was like very important production wise, or how the process was, and that's why these sharings were possible like this. Yeah.
You already answered my next question.
Sorry. It's like, I'm like, you know, interview to interview, just like, you know, push the button. Okay, I'm. They really loved there was only one woman who was scared that because Estonia is small, 1.3 million people, that maybe her parents will recognize her voice. So she told me like, okay, can I ask somebody to just use different voice to tell her story? But I said no to her. I was like, no, this will not be the same. So I took that story out. But what was interesting, I was always concerned, like, will they be okay with everything? But I never thought that somebody would be sad that their story is not in. So actually that happened. Like there was one woman particularly who was really sad that her story was not in the film. So I had to take time with her and really make sure to explain, you know, that it doesn't mean that their story is not strong or is somehow less, you know. And I gave her a promise that her story will come in another film somehow. So, but it's like also very important in our work, how to be with all those who are cut out from films. Yeah, it started with a friendship with a sisterhood that I'm part of. There is not club, so smoke sauna is a different type of sauna. It's nothing like, you know, spa saunas here, or it is private sauna. A household owns it. It is without chimney, and it is a sacred place where women used to give birth and wash the dead and heal for centuries. So you have to know the people, you have to be like part of the community to go there. So yes, it started with the community that I'm part of, the sisterhood that I'm part of. But then because Estonia is so small and people started to know I make the film, so they started like totally strangers started to contact me like, hi, can I be the film? And once it was funny, there was we were filming in the countryside where I was living and filming, and the car came and the woman came out and she was like, oh, where is this smoke sauna? I want to be in the film. And she was total stranger, but she is now in the film. She ended up in the film. So it started to like create new sisterhoods, you can say. It is actually comes from the smoke sauna space itself, you know, because I've been there so much. I feel that whenever I'm there, I feel like I'm inside a Caravaggio painting. And because a smoke sauna has no chimney, it is dark. It is different process, like you heat it before, and then there's smoke, and then you let the smoke out, and then you enter, and you cannot put any more fire. But because of the smoke, the walls are dark. And there is certain smell, this tardy smell, and also certain particles in the air. So that light is very specific. And the only light source is 1 or 2 small windows. And so our task was how to capture that amazing light. Not to put artificial light inside, but how to capture it. So, but that light is so dark, the contrast, you see it by your eyes, but you have to help putting a light source behind the window, but just as much so that you see in the film how you see with your eyes. So smoke sauna itself gave us the key, and then the visual aspect is what I shared about because what I was really scared about. I knew that this space is so cinematographic. It's also so amazing sound there. It's like a symphony of smoke sauna with different, sweat dropping, fire before heating, water, sweat dropping on metal bodies. All this is there. So how to capture that? And it was, of course, crazy because it was hot, and it's like, hey, let's go and film in a hot, small, dark space with no electricity. It is like crazy. Many people said it's not possible to me. Many people, but then you have to find the right people who say it's possible. Not in cinema, but in paintings, yeah. Like Caravaggio, like many masters. I was just going. I remember I was going to Venice, and I was watching many masters, and because this is really that light how I see in smoke sauna. So I shared that with the cinematographer, and he immediately connected with that. So you can say from art histories references, but not in film. Actually, with the film was interesting. When I asked money in the beginning, then I didn't get it, and they made several points why it will never travel, it will be so local, how can you make it cinematographic, filming in a small place? And one argument was that we have never seen this kind of film before, and I was like, why should I make a film that you have seen before? So I couldn't actually refer to any film before. But now they're very happy in Estonia, and it's traveling so much. The soundtrack really, again, the soundscape was like in the visual, like how to capture what is there, like how to be able to capture the symphony of smoke sauna. And create from that, and then I had the vision that there should be like female voices, and those voices actually, it's my band. I'm also doing music, so it's my band Ether, and we collaborated with Icelandic composer Edvard Egilsson, and these melodies that you hear, they are all from the southeast Estonia, like from the folklore or from that region, born or inspired by these melodies. But then what you hear inside the film, these are just things that are melodies that happened, that the women were, singing, or that came out from them. It was not planned again, like it just came. We had to capture, yeah.
What was the most difficult thing about make this movie?
I think holding really this this responsibility for the intimacy, responsibility for all the women who were participating there, to make sure that everyone is safe. And like, to take this kind of film as a director, it means you take responsibility that lasts till the very end. You know, it's not like, oh, we film and then bye-bye, but it's to be with the sisterhood also when the film comes out, make sure that everyone, you're in contact with all the sisterhood, because you never know how exactly the world will react, you know, to be there, to protect them, to support them, to become like really close, and at the same time you do the film, to make sure that like the challenge of that this non-sexual glance of their bodies comes through. Like, I think that these things, and of course then physically making sure that everyone is safe, because it's no joke filming in such heat, you know, to make sure basically how to keep the space emotionally and physically so that everyone is safe and everyone is empowered, you know. And
what do you mean by empowered?
Empowered by this, like that, not putting your like not putting I have this artistic vision and I am applying this to them, but how to create kind of a space where every voice that you hear in this film feels like empowered, feels autonomy, feels that they have the space to say and be silent and feel not to, you know, like that they can be themselves. Because many things, like how even in filmmaking in school still, I don't know, but in my school when I was going, how they teach filmmaking, it is still very much based on this strong male voices, and this kind of like where you are like studied, taught how to seduce your subject, how to like put your vision is the most important, and it doesn't matter, you know, the process or what the other people are feeling. And I'm totally against it. I really feel it's so important that you can make films that are bold, that are strong, that are artistic, and at the same time empathetic. So how to keep that in films, you know? That for me is actually always this concern, especially when there are, like, you know, real people, they are not actors. So how not to overpower with your artistic ego. That's the thing. That's what I mean. In Estonia, it's interesting. People are really scared of the word feminism. I feel that in that way, there is still a long way to go. People think that when somebody is feminist, it means that they are against men, or, you know, like. So it's what I've learned with this film is how to talk about feminism without using the word feminism, you know. And what I'm talking about often is that, you know, the problem is in the patriarchal mindset, and that mindset is where we are all, regardless of our gender, we are suffering because of that. Like so many men are suffering from this pressure to be strong, and it shows because when the film came out in Estonia, so many men started to contact me, and they were like, "Oh, it's strong," and I got 4 offers from different people I didn't know, men, who were like, "Can you make a film of Smoke Sauna Brotherhood? We really need that." And then when I was asking, so do you also share like so intimately in sauna, in smoke sauna? And people were like, no. Like, I remember one audience member, like this guy was like, why is it so that they go to sauna and they talk about the bullshit, not about the real shit, and they avoid the intimacy? And then I take from that and I start to talk about that mindset. That is the problem. We should understand that these here are all our problems in our mindsets, you know, and that it's not that, because sometimes people who don't know about feminism or, you know, all that, then it's like, oh, it's some kind of agenda against men, and that's not true. And it's like how to connect with your humanity, how to connect with vulnerability, how to connect with yourself, how to connect with others, how to get that pressure. Like we have all, like there are so many pressures on how a woman should be, there are so many pressures on how a man should be. And, you know, maybe we should all find this kind of safe space where we can let go of those things and find out what we want actually. So I talk about that. And I feel that this is actually this way of talking. I can go to whatever small communities, very conservative communities, and you know, men are crying in my arms, women are crying in my arms. And that's beautiful. That's like where despite our differences, we're human, you know. And we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we don't want to be judged. We want this kind of safe space, and that's what Smoke Sauna is about. So I see my film in the context of that.
So will you make that movie about brotherhood, Sauna?
I'm actually working on something that is dealing with intimacy between men. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, it's so of course very nice when your country is also supporting you. But you know, all these awards and all the festivals, most important to me is this connection with the audience, and really like every day I get so many messages. There are people, like I've met at least 20 people who have seen the film like more than 6 times. So it's not anymore for them a film. It's for them, when they go to cinema, they go to that space, that kind of safe space, and where they deal with their own things. And for me, this is like the most beautiful award that it can travel. And because awards and these things are always subjective. You know, somebody's taste, who is in power, like in Oscars, who has more money to like do the campaigns and all that. But you cannot do campaigns to win people's heart. It has to have inside the film. If it touches, it touches, and that's the most important miracle. If this happens.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.